everybody. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel where I talk about normal things of life and living in Italy. And today we are joined by a very famous person. Welcome, Jama, to our show.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
Jama is famous, and we met, I'm gonna say, a good 10 years
12.
ago. Yeah, 10, 12 years ago. And she's traveled around the whole world, and now she's coming to join us today to talk about the subject of traveling with pets. And she's also in a lovely publicity magazine of the Auburn magazine. Lovely picture of her and her husband Grant. And Jama has done a lot of work with rescue animals and giving life to dogs who need so much love.
Oh, that's so nice. That's a great way to say it. Yes, I was an animal cruelty investigator. It was my job and my passion at the same time for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And right after that, we decided we don't have any children, and we had a bunch of dogs, and we thought traveling was the way we wanted to live. And I'm so glad we made that decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good to get out of the animal welfare. It's a tough job. Get out of that job and hit the road. And now it's my two passions. It's travel and pets.
Okay. There's a lot of questions about what does it look like to travel with pets. And as you all know, I say everything can be done. You can always do it. And the frustration is when you have a different expectation of what it looks like. So I thought that Jama has just come from the UK. Well, she was in the US, and then you went to Europe, and then the UK, and then back to the Europe.
Correct.
Okay. So I thought it'd be nice if she shared with us a little bit of the paperwork.
Well, this is 6 months. This is 6 months worth of
And
paper.
this is for one dog.
This is for one dog.
So you would have that for every single dog.
You would have a stack of this for every single dog. So we first came over with 3 dogs. The second time we came over with 2, and this time we came over with 1 small dog. I love that you're saying your quote, because that's exactly what it can be done.
Yes.
It's not fun, and it's stressful, and it's expensive, but it can be done. And we would never have traveled if we couldn't bring our animals with us. They have to be with us. The funny thing is, though, I could tell you something today and it's going to change tomorrow.
Exactly. This is a very important thing to note about traveling and things. You have to always check what is needed of you today, and what something worked for somebody else might, and probably 100% will not work for you. That's unfortunately the case of generally moving abroad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hopefully it doesn't kill your spirit and you make a decision not to, but it will drain you, because a lot of this is a lot of last minute things, and you're trying to get everything packed and get everybody's medications and all of their needs and everything in the suitcase, and now you've got to go do this paperwork. So
so what does it look like? What do you have here?
Well, so the first thing we had to get is it's called an animal health certificate.
Okay.
And it's from the United States. And so here again, this is something that's changed from we were here in 14, 20, and now 2024. It's changed several times. So this is one of the things that's gotten harder, is the animal health certificate. So you can see how many pages this is. This is the one from the US. What you have to do is the dog has to see a vet. Then this paperwork has to be sent to the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Someone has to sign off on it, because you're bringing, with the dog, you're bringing all the diseases with you when you come over from wherever. So this has to be done. It has to be done within a certain number of days before you fly. It has to be sent off. This is one of the things that really, and there are people that just show up at the airport with their dog and think they can just get on the plane. You can't leave. Without this.
And how much does this cost you to get?
This particular form, along with the appointment, because the vet obviously wants to see the dog to make sure he doesn't appear to have any diseases, was over $200, $260 just for this. He was current on his shots. He was current on his microchip. This cost $260 just to get this form. That got us to Germany. So we arrived in Germany. We spent a month in Germany, and then we went to Greece, and then we came to the Netherlands. And
this form?
With that form. It lasts 4 months in Europe. That's only in the EU. So that's this form. Then we said, hey, let's go to Scotland. So we'll have to take a ferry over. Why not? Let's do it. We're here. So then, in order to go to the UK, we had to get another animal health certificate.
Okay.
Which is, again, multiple pages.
So question, when you're in the US, is there like, you have to say, I'm going to Europe. So they give you this specific form for European travel, or they don't, it's just one in the US?
This is specifically for arrival in Germany.
Okay, so you
Because
have to say where you're
You have
going.
to say exactly where you're landing, because the person in Germany, since there are open borders in Europe, you're moving around, but that airport is responsible for, when you land, making sure that animal deserves to be on the land there.
Okay.
So they checked it, and I'll tell you just as a funny side note, my name is Jama, it's Jama. Well, someone wrote it incorrectly in a second, and just put Jam, Jam, and they almost didn't let us in.
Oh no.
That's because this form is that sensitive. So the guy looked at it and was like, "This is wrong. This is
Yeah.
this is wrong." And we.
But it has Jama right there.
That's the only reason. Is it looks suspicious. So I will tell you, it's very, very important that your microchip number matches the date of rabies vaccination, matches everything's perfect on this form, or you're going to have trouble at the border. So that's that form. So then we decided to go to the UK. So we were in Netherlands, so we had to go see a vet and get a tapeworm vaccine.
Okay, and where did you go to find the information of what your requirements were?
Ooh, the internet.
Okay. Is there like a particular site that you could recommend to some
I
people?
would not. I would say do your own research, because here's the problem. Somebody's going to tell you about, just as you said, their experience.
Yes.
Well, that was 3 months ago, and it's already changed.
Okay.
You really have to go, I would say, more of the government sites.
Yeah.
Go to Italy's government site, look for bringing animals into the country, and keep up with the current
And have you
rules.
found that when you search, you can find information in English?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So here's another vet appointment in Netherlands. So there's another $100 for a vet appointment. Then the paperwork, which is exactly the same paperwork, but it's written in English to go to the UK, and the tapeworm,
Okay.
the oral medication they give them for because the UK has been very careful in keeping tapeworm out, and so that's an additional thing that you have to do. Also, Norway, Turkey. There are a couple of other. Let's see, Ireland, Malta. If you're going to go to certain countries, you're going to have to go get another tapeworm oral medication to clear out tapeworms 5 days before you travel. So here you are, you're trying to get on the ferry, you're trying to plan your trip to
And
travel.
you have to do it
have to 5 days before. I had to find now, and so we're at 260, we're at the vet appointment 360, and we're at the paperwork 460. So
And did this one have to get sent to the agriculture people as well?
it did not.
Okay.
They did that internally, and so that it had to go to the ferry service provides someone from the country you're going to, and they verified it.
Okay.
So we got to the UK. We had a lovely 3.5 months in Scotland, Wales, and England. It was beautiful. And then we said, it's time to move on. We need some warm weather. So we came back over. And when we came back over, we had to go to another vet appointment.
Okay.
There's another $100, and then another form, which is the very same form. This one is written in English again, and it's been translated into French because we were headed into France. So there is another $200.
When you move around to Europe, I guess it's safe to say that if you're going in somewhere, you have to have the document in the language of where you're arriving.
Where you're arriving.
Yeah.
And so they recognize that if France took it, then Italy will take it, Spain will take it, Greece will take it, but it's where you arrive, because they're the ones that have to look at it and verify and stop you
if
there's a problem.
Okay.
If your dog is ill or if he's carrying some kind of disease. This one lasts 4 months. And so every 4 months you have to go see a vet while you're traveling around. If you stay for that long, if you're traveling around Europe, you have to go see a vet every 4 months. That's another vet appointment. That's another animal health certificate. So, and then when we go back to the United States, something that's just happened in the last 2 years is the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, is now requiring a health checkup before you bring your animal that came from the U.S. back to the U.S. So then I'll have another animal health certificate and another vet appointment
to get back into the US.
Get back into my own country. So
Okay.
we're trying. What it's all about, bottom line, is the spread of disease.
Exactly. when you came over on the ferry, did your dog have to be muzzled?
That's a good question. So on the ferry to the UK, we stayed in a cabin, a pet-friendly cabin. And so we were able to take him out of our camper van that was on the ferry, take him to the cabin, and he ran around in the cabin. They had a little area that had some turf.
Okay.
Some artificial turf where he could go to the bathroom. So he was allowed to be in those two areas, but nowhere else. So we didn't have to muzzle him. When we came from the UK into France, we could not take him out of the camper.
Oh, okay.
So he had to stay inside the vehicle. If you're in a car, whatever you're in, a camper or a truck, the animals have to stay. And it was a 6-hour ferry, ride. So he slept. We were allowed to go check on him. We were allowed to go and pop in on him, but he slept for that ferry. So it varies.
You have to know.
You have to know.
Yeah, I think so I have a golden retriever, and if I want to take him on a train, he has to be on the muzzle. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's also important to know that in Italy, there's a lot of laws about as well, your animal causing harm to somebody else. So if your leash is one of the extendable leashes, and let's say, for example, you have it all the way out, and some accident happens, you're liable because now that leash is not the right distance. So it's important when you get into these things here, you have to also take a minute to understand what type of regulations come in with them.
Absolutely.
Okay, can you tell us about some of the different options and different ways that you can get your dog over from America?
Okay, and this would apply to most countries, I think, other than the United States, Canada, Mexico, Africa. What's happened in the last couple of years is there were some really tragic instances where animals died as a result of air travel. And so they've changed the guidelines, and then they changed them, and then they changed them, and then they changed them. If you have a small dog, great. That dog will go under the seat if they're small, if they're 7 pounds or so, and then you add a little bit for the bag. And so that's great. They go under the seat, you're with them, you can watch them. They do have limits. Many of the airlines have limits on the length of the flight. And so if it's over 9 hours, there has to be a break in there.
And how do you find out when you're booking the flight? Do you have to call? Can you find this information online? Because I've never looked to ship my dog, so I wouldn't have even thought of it.
Well, go straight to the airline. What you would do first is, I want to go from Boston to Milan. So then you would, if that's what you're trying to do, you start to look at flights. And then take that flight and make sure, number one, it's under the 9 hours, or it's around the 9 hour. If it's over that, they will require a layover. The dog has to get out and has to have a break. They don't want an animal in the plane for 11 hours. There is a little bit of work to be done to find the flight. And then second will be the time of the year. You're not going to fly with the dog in August.
It's too
on
hot.
the plane. It's just absolutely too hot. You're not going to fly with the dog in January. What has happened is these cargo and shipping companies have stepped in because the airlines has started to distance themselves with carrier animals. And you've got the option of, if it's a service dog, it can fly in the plane with you. If it's a small dog, it can fly in the plane with you. If it's a large dog, for instance, a golden retriever, you may have to ship them. And there are many ways to do that. But the new thing that has, since the airlines have decided to step away, there are private jets.
I've heard about this that are just for shipping animals.
Bark Air was the first one to actually start to plan out routes. It's called Bark Air. So you fly with your dog in a luxury seat on a chartered jet in comfy, cozy. They bring treats around for the dogs. The dogs are allowed to be free. The only problem is it's $8,000 to cross the U.S. country and across the country, and then about $10,000 to fly overseas. If you have that, and maybe it's a once in a lifetime, you're moving here and you're only going to do it once, it's lovely. You and 10 of your friends can also charter your own jet.
Okay.
For about 10, 12, 15,000 each. And y'all can come over as a group and charter your own.
And bring all your dogs.
And bring all of you come over at the same time, all your friends, or even put a call out, shout out on Facebook. Is anybody wanting to go? Let's charter a plane. Otherwise, it's a ship or it's a cargo plane which the animal would be alone. You wouldn't be on the plane. You would be, somebody would be on one end to drop them off and somebody would be on the other end to pick them up. So the world of travel with pets is changing, and a lot of it is for health and safety.
Let's say you came over and you got residency. Could you then get a passport for your dog?
This is one of the first things I would do, because this is renewable every 4 months, remember?
Right.
Your passport's the annual.
I haven't even looked at
permanent.
it because we haven't. He's not a good traveler, so
Okay.
he is better not traveling.
Okay. You know, the first thing I would do, where are you going? And then contact the airlines and say, because the crate has to be a certain size.
Yeah, every airline has their own regulation.
And they're all pretty standard now. They all stay kind of in the standard size, but one airline may say that's not going to, this is an economy airline, it's not going to fit under our seat. And so then you have to make another plan. But for us, we just weren't going to not bring our animals with us. And I'm glad the timing, as far as the expense, it's risen another $100. It was much cheaper back 10, 12 years ago. But it's for me, it was about the safety and the comfort of the animals. Also, and speaking of that, people say, well, I'll just give the dog some tramadol, or I'll just give a sedative. The sedatives are absolutely 100% against the regulation of every airline. You're not supposed to give the dogs a sedative to travel. That's on ferries, that's on planes. The planes is because the altitude changes how the medication is distributed through the body, and so some of them have gone into anaphylactic shock, or they've had they've had problems once they got to a certain altitude. Also, many airlines don't allow snub-nosed dogs, so your pugs,
right? Yeah, I've heard about that as well,
your flat, because of their breathing and on the airline. So
where do you start? You got to start with the airline.
Start with where you want to go, and then try to find a flight that fits with with your need to bring your animal over. Okay. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Please, if you have any other questions, feel free to write them in the comments. If you have any stories to share, go ahead and put them on there. If we missed anything, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks.